Through the first 14 games of this season, the Memphis Grizzlies were allowing just over 113 points every 100 possessions, and with a league average of 112.9 over that span, they were actually a below average defense. By just simply adding Jaren Jackson Jr. into the lineup with virtually no other major changes, that number jumped to a 109.1, while the league's average plummeted to 115.6. Meaning that they haven't only been the league's best defense, but with a pretty wide margin. And that's just the type of game changer Jackson is on that end of the floor, cleaning up mistakes and making more plays than anyone. He's primarily used in the role of a free safety, where he'll just roam all over the floor and wreak havoc. His anticipation and ability to read offenses is incredible, recognizing potential threats and rotating in perfect fashion to turn them away, seemingly always in a prime position as he eliminates drives, cuts, and rolls to the basket. When Landale receives an entry pass against the smaller Morant, Jaren immediately abandons the corner to take away the paint. And as Memphis scrambles, notice how he just follows the ball and moves himself all over the lane, allowing him to send away an attack off the catch. Sometimes you can't even actually tell who his individual matchup is right away. Fox and Sabonis get into a pick and roll, and he just throws himself into the action as a third defender, leaving Barnes on an island on the other side of the floor. Again, he's not even thinking about that shooter, as Sabonis is the most imminent threat and slides down to erase a layup off the glass. His ranginess as an athlete makes this work so well. He's got a 7'4" wingspan, decent leaping ability, and mobile gifts that allow him to cover tons of ground quickly and eat up space. He moves especially well horizontally, which is huge on the back line where he can quickly slide up or down, and he's real flexible, swinging his hips and changing directions to get into those helping positions. This allows him to help near the basket and recover to the perimeter at a very high level. As RJ slashes, Jaren shoots to the nail to make him pick up his dribble and force an off-target pass that results in a long contested three. His length really bothers shooters, often running them off the line where he's mobile enough to offer resistance on the attack. He has lightning quick, active hands that when paired with that length lead to a decent amount of plays being made on the ball, and even when he is beat off the dribble, he's outstanding at recovering in rear pursuit. If possible, they'll stick him on stationary corner shooters as much as possible, where he can aggressively rotate and clog up lanes with those active hands, and it's in these spots where he's a master of helping the helper. Memphis can throw aggressive coverages at the ball or on perimeter actions and rely on Jackson to just eliminate any advantages. Adams slides down to protect the rim from Giddey's drive, and without hesitation, Jaren switches onto a cutter where he's able to take away a pass. These sort of high leverage plays apply to all potential advantages being created, whether that's a blow by, double team, or perfect skip and attack. And it's typically his skills as a rim protector that make him so effective in taking these away. Over the last two seasons, players are shooting almost 14% below their expected field goal percentage with Jackson at the rim, a game-changing number. And if we take a look at a few metrics estimating what he offers as an interior defender, you get a more nuanced view at how he's able to protect the paint. His actual rim deterrence lacks just a touch behind the numbers for when the ball actually gets there, which we'll get into in a bit, but for now I want to focus on his shot blocking. Not only does he lead the league in blocks on both a per possession and per game basis, but the rate at which he's sending them away is absolutely impeccable. Right now he's blocking 4.5 shots every 75 possessions, with a staggering block percentage of 11.3, the highest mark of any qualifying season in NBA history. When he's anticipating a shot, you'll often see him squat real low, almost like a predator stalking its prey as he gets ready to pounce at the ball. But he can also get off the floor quick without much of a dip. Monk loses his man on a backdoor, with Jackson playing cleanup crew, instantly darting to the basket, where he can beat him to the top of his release before getting up again to send away a second attempt on the putback. Whether it's on the first or second jump, with or without a dip, his timing on these vertical explosions is unrivaled, never missing opportunities to line up with attackers in mid-air where he targets the ball perfectly. He can do this with either hand as well. One separator between him and some other shot blockers is how ambidextrous he is, blocking more shots with his left than right, but having the same level of comfort with both, meaning he has that same sort of rim saving effect from virtually any spot in the lane. He does still have a tendency to chase blocks at times, committing some avoidable fouls or falling for up fakes, but with more age and experience, his discipline has gotten so much better, which really shows up in his foul numbers, marking a career low 4 personal fouls every 75 possessions. There's still some room for improvement, but it's far from a major problem. A few years ago, he probably sends Zion to the line here, but now he slides into a position where he can time up his jump, and instead of attacking the ball, just absorbs that contact while remaining completely vertical to force an awkward finish. While he's certainly maximized at the 4 in the role of a free roaming helper, he still has a ton of utility as a sort of small ball option at the 5. Before we get into that though, I want to give a quick shout out to Basketball Index for helping with this analysis and the making of this video. If you're not familiar with the site, they provide tons of statistical measurements, tools, and easily accessible graphics to further guide your understanding of the sport. I earlier mentioned quite a few of their talent grades, and through their player profiles tab, I can easily compare them to other players around the league. Using Jackson's interior defense as an example, on this page I'm presented with various metrics detailing his ability to protect the paint, along with how he stacks up against his peers. This is just one of the many useful tools found on the site that help guide me and many others through their analysis, and by signing up with the code VENUE30, you can get 30% off your first month subscription. I'll leave a link in the description below for anyone interested in signing up, and with that being said, let's take a look at Jaren's defense at center. Due to his ranginess as an athlete and mobility in space, he offers some versatile coverage options in the pick and roll. He can play at the level or more aggressively with blitzes, traps, and hedges, where he'll do a good job at forcing ball handlers to get rid of the ball before recovering with near perfect execution so as to not let the offense initiate any major advantage. He can also play different types of drop, bringing it higher and taking away passing angles with his length and hands, or a bit deeper where he can lean into that paint protection. Now, remember I earlier mentioned we would get back to why his rim deterrence is one aspect where he doesn't seem to be quite as potent, and it's in these drop coverage possessions where I think we see why. His approach in these spots isn't like what you'll see with these bigger guys like Rudy Gobert, Brook Lopez, or Joel Embiid, who like to camp in the middle and drive attempts as far away from the basket as they can due to their sheer presence. Instead, you'll see him almost prioritize rollers and let ball handlers drive the ball in a bit closer, and what he's doing here is essentially baiting them into his trap. Because he has such perfect timing and can cover so much space as quickly as he can, he's comfortable letting attempts get closer to the rim before sending them away, instead of just forcing them into pull-up jumpers. Bey hesitates off a screen as if he's looking to make a play from the long mid-range, and Jaren almost abandons him to make sure there's no way of getting the ball to the roll man, then gets into that deep squat where he can launch at a layup attempt and wipe it away. He's not too much of a switch defender, but he can even do that a bit. I earlier mentioned that he can string together some decent possessions in space due to his mobility, length, and hands, and while he does a good job of holding his own, keeping him as close to the basket as possible is where you'll get that unique type of value. Added strength he's put on over the years allows him to control his body and momentum much better when moving at higher speeds like this, and has even made him sturdy enough to offer real resistance against bigger post players. To top it all off, he's a one-man defense in transition. His ability to just erase advantages applies to faster paced possessions as well, where he can turn away multiple threats at once, and from behind he's a chase down machine. Overall, what you get is a near perfect skill set for defending in the modern pace and space era, and so far this season that's definitely showing up in metrics looking to capture value. Whether they lean more into the box score, optimal tracking data, or just plus minus and lineup numbers, there's a mutual agreement that he's one of the most valuable defenders in basketball, an assessment I agree with entirely. Knowing what I know about his skill set, role flexibility, and versatility, and what that means heading into a playoff series or tough matchup against a high-powered offense, I'm willing to take it a step further and say he's been the best defender in the NBA this season, and with enough games played under his belt, should run away with the 2023 Defensive Player of the Year award. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to drop a like, subscribe, and turn my post notifications on to be first on more content. If you're interested in my more in-depth research, make sure to check out my website and social media profiles. You can find those links in the description. Feel free to let me know down in the comments what you think of Jackson and just how good you believe he is. As always, I hope you all have a great day, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.